What's up, guys? We are back for another NECA Toys review, digging back into that Kenner homage Terminator wave that they've been putting out recently. We've already taken a look at the Metal Mesh Terminator. Today we have arguably the most anticipated figure in this wave, and that is, of course, the Power Arm Terminator. This guy holds a lot of nostalgia for me personally, so I'm really excited to take a look at this one. He comes on a blister carded package. You can see him there in the bubble. We have got the vintage Kenner style packaging for that backer card artwork, the NECA logos done up in the Kenner font, and then on the back side we have got a cross-sell that mimics the old vintage packaging but done up with all of NECA's offerings. So a lot of cool stuff. I love that NECA does this with their homage type figures. They always blow it out of the park with the packaging. So let's do it. Let's pull this guy out and take a look. Alright guys, here he is out of the packaging, our Power Arm Terminator, the Kenner homage figure, and this guy's just about everything I expected it to be, frankly. It's a lot of fun, so if you're even remotely interested in these figures for whatever reason, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And after watching this review, if you want to snag one for yourself, as usual, go to Big Bad Toy Store. I'll put a link down below, and you can pick one up. So let's take a look at articulation real quick. If you've seen in my recent Ultimate T800 review, most of this is going to be really similar because this is almost the exact same figure with a few changes, you know, one big change right here. But articulation is mostly the same, save for that arm. So let's see what this guy can do, what's a little different here. So we'll start at the head as usual. And it's a single piece, so the neck is where the ball peg is. And one thing that I've noticed on this one, and I know other folks have seen this as well, the head is really, really loose. It comes right off, but frankly, if you just, you know, put it back on, it stays in place just fine. It doesn't take to being touched very well, which is weird because my Ultimate T800 was pretty well okay. But it can look up, it can look down, side to side, rotate a little bit as well. You just have to follow that neck. The head itself is not articulated, it's the whole thing. The right arm goes out, swivel, you've got a single jointed elbow, and then you've got a ball peg down at the wrist. So a little bit of wiggle room there and then rotation. This arm, of course, is a little different. So there is a socket in there with a ball peg, and it goes around. You can move it back and forth a little bit, and then, of course, it can go kind of in and out because of that. So it can kind of cross his chest slightly, and then it'll go backwards a little bit. There is a slight bicep cut here. Not much. It doesn't move all that much, but it does allow for some rotation, and then the claw attachment here at the end is articulated so you can swivel it around. So it has some articulation, but I mean, frankly, it's enormous. It's a humongous piece of plastic. So it's about as articulated as a humongous claw arm can be, I suppose. There's a waist twist down there. You've got legs that go out, kick forward, kick back. The crotch piece on the jeans is slightly rubbery, so it helps move that. You can cut in there at that thigh joint. You've got single jointed knees, but they rotate as well. And then you've got a ball peg down at the ankle, so forwards, backwards, side to side, and then rotation. So he is, for all intents and purposes, you know, the exact same kind of figure that we've seen with the Ultimate T800 because it's basically the same body. The only real difference is that we've got this big arm that does, of course, have its own limitations based on design. Now, that said, let's not kid ourselves here. The real reason why we're here for this figure isn't because he is overly dynamically articulated, because he's not. It is because of the look, and it's because of the nostalgia factor for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other folks as well. I grew up in, you know, the Kenner age in terms of 90s, 80s Kenner, and I have very fond memories of this line. I don't have any to really speak of anymore. In fact, I've said it a couple times in other videos, all I have left is one of the arms. It's in my Ninja Turtle accessories. That's where it's going to stay. But I don't have the figure anymore, and I didn't have very many of the Terminator figures in the 90s, but I did have this one. And you know, it was a fun figure then, and I think this is a pretty fun representation now. That version does have a little more in the way of our accessories. You know, it had a battle-damaged arm. The other arms were different. They weren't interchangeable pieces, but this works really well. I think NECA's done a really good job to actually bring this guy to life, and there's just a lot of goofy stuff about it that works really well. Of course, I have said a couple times already that this figure is pretty much the exact same Terminator figure that we've seen before from NECA. So it's the same jacket, it's the same shirt, albeit it's painted pink here to go with the, you know, you saw him, he had a pink shirt in the movie, right? But this goes with the Kenner theme, and then it's the same legs and the same boots, and then, you know, you've got these arms over here. The difference is, of course, that it's not all of those different accessories that you see with the Ultimate T800. So he has the same jacket, but they replaced this arm with a bare arm, which works pretty well. I think it could use a little shading personally, but overall I think it works really well. Of course, you do have the power arm, which we'll talk about, but the pants have a lot of nice shading on them. It makes them look dusty, makes them look worn. I love the pink shirt. It's perfect. It works so well to make this slightly goofy. It makes it look like something that to the uninitiated, they may not know what it is, but if you know what this is referencing, then you instantly get it. But the big draw is, of course, the arm, and this thing is a humongous piece of plastic. I mean, from shoulder to ankle, it hangs. And that's, of course, with the claw attachment. There is another one that we'll talk about shortly. But there is a ton of sculpted detail in here. Lots of wash. Very, very techno looking. Very futuristic. And I just love it. I think it's fantastic. I really love the idea behind this figure. Again, I have a lot of nostalgia for the original one, so I am biased. But I think NECA did a really good job of bringing this to life. You know, when you think about this kind of stuff, this is what the figure we had as kids looked like to us. It wasn't that Kenner figure. It was so much more, you know, when you're playing with your toys, you have to use your imagination as a kid, and you would think that your figure is far beefier and far more painted and far more detailed and far more menacing looking than it actually was, because let's be honest, those figures are pretty goofy looking. But I think NECA's done a really good job of paying homage to that figure while making it look like what we've always wanted. And of course, in addition to the fact that we have this amazing arm with great paint detail with tons of sculpt on it, you know, it's got a claw mechanism here as well, which is great, so you can hinge that back and forth and open and shut those jaws. But you do have this fantastically painted head sculpt, and this is one we've seen before as well. This is one that we've seen with, for instance, the recent Ultimate Terminator that I reviewed. This is one of the bonus heads, but this one works really, really well here. There's tons of bloodied paint all over it. You've got the red eye glowing through. You've got some battle damage on the back of the head there. Nice weathering on the hair for the paint job. The one thing that I don't really know about this head, and it's not unique to this version, it happened on the other one as well, he almost looks slightly sad. He doesn't really look mean or menacing. He almost looks like, you know, I just had a really bad day. Half of my face got blown off. I'm going to be a little sad about it. But I do dig the head sculpt. I think the detail with the endoskeleton shining through works perfectly. And then all that blood just makes him look even more nasty and menacing than he would have otherwise. Now, as far as accessories goes, we do have a handful. We have got, for starters, we have got a replacement arm. And this is probably the one accessory that I'm never going to use because, frankly, it just turns him into something entirely different. But we have got a just standard left arm here with a watch on it. So you can pop this guy out and put this on. I would urge a bit of caution. I've seen some folks already do this where they snap the arm off at the little joint there. Just heat it up. It's, you know, just be forewarned, heat it up and then pop it out and put it in. If you want to do this, I would have liked to have seen a battle damaged arm and not a regular arm, but I'm assuming this is a tooling thing. So we got this arm. If you want to use it, I'm just never going to use it. I like the inclusion. I love extra stuff like that, but it takes away from what the figure's for. So he's always going to have this big hunk of metal hanging off of him. We do have the extra piece here. So if you don't want to use the claw, the other feature of the original figure was a rocket, and I think it was a fling rocket or a flick rocket. It wasn't a spring propelled one. It was one you had to flick, if I remember. I could be wrong about that. But this one, you just take that out and pop it in, and you've got a little rocket tip that sits at the end of him there, which looks really, really good as well. So you've got two options in terms of your power arm. And then the other accessory we have is the pulse rifle here. So we saw this recently with the Metal Mash Terminator as well. His was a slightly different color, if I remember. I think his was black and a little bit red. But this one's got black and silver paint on it. Same exact sculpt. So we've seen this before in the line. But this works really well. So you can arm him to the teeth, have him with a gun, and with that humongous power arm. So at the end of the day, this is another home run. This guy does play off of nostalgia pretty hard. For me personally, this is one that I was really, really looking forward to, and I think they delivered quite well. Save for the fact that I would have liked to have seen a battle damaged arm, there's really nothing to complain about with this figure. The power arm is fantastic, the pink shirt is great, and again, like I said, this is the thing that you think of when you're a kid. You think your toys are something more than they actually are, that it's not this goofy little Terminator from Kenner, but it's actually this beefy, hulking guy that looks like he's going to throw down, looks like he's been through the meat grinder with all the torn up face and all the battle collateral damage, and it really does something for me, and I think NECA does a great job when it comes to this kind of stuff. They killed it with the packaging, they killed it with the figure. It's all around just a great package, and I think that this entire wave is really solid, and if you're a fan of this kind of stuff, you really can't go wrong. So that's going to do it for this look at the NECA Toys Power Arm Terminator. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.